Why are edibles inconsistent or sometimes unpredictable in the effects or experience that you get when consuming them? Sometimes an edible can be uplifting or stimulating, sometimes relaxing or sedating, calming, sometimes in the middle or a mix of those two, and sometimes in the worst case scenario, even cause paranoia or anxiety if you overconsume and take too much of an edible. So in this video, we're going to break down a few different things that you can consider and look at to make sure you can get a consistent edible experience and also be able to predict how you're going to feel the next time you consume an edible. So let's start with the first one. The first thing is making sure the edible is lab tested. Really, I would only buy edibles from a state or a business that's licensed in a state where they have testing protocols. Here in Oregon, all of the edibles we make in the process lots are randomly sampled by a third-party lab, and then they're checked to make sure that they're homogeneous across the process lot and there's no variance in potency, either really high or really low, and that's really important. Back when the industry was unregulated, if someone didn't have their process fully developed, they may have one piece of the edible that was really potent and one less so. So it was really hard to get a predictable edible experience when the difference of 5 or 10 milligrams really makes a big difference when consuming an edible. And so making sure it's lab tested and then getting your THC dose right is critical to get the right experience you're looking for. And we got another video where we break down getting the right THC dose. If you're not sure what that is in an edible that would work best for you, go check out that video. We've got a little more information in there. The second piece that's really important is the infusion method, or how that edible was infused with cannabis. All edibles are not created equal, and there's actually a mix of multiple compounds inside of the cannabis plant that all play a part in the experience that you get from cannabis. So it's not just THC or CBD that produces the result or the effect. There's actually other cannabinoids, minor cannabinoids, which THC and CBD are a part of, mixed with secondary compounds called terpenes. It's really the mix of those that produce the different effects, the nuances of being uplifting versus more calming or relaxing. So we'll break down a few of the different infusion methods here. We have a longer video where we go more in depth on those. So if you want to learn more, go check that out. But quite simply, there's really 3 different methods or categories for infusing an edible. The first one is an isolate or isolation infusion method. That means basically that just the THC or the CBD molecule is in that edible product. The second infusion method is a distillate infusion. That normally means that there's THC and or CBD in the edible, maybe some of those other minor cannabinoids, but most likely none of the terpenes are in that edible product. And the third category is full spectrum. That means everything that was in the cannabis strain makes it into that edible product. All the cannabinoids, all the terpenes are in there, and it's really how those compounds work together that produce the different experiences or highs from consuming an edible. And that's called the entourage effect. It's the synergistic way those compounds work together to produce a very specific effect or experience when you consume an edible. And so the third one is, let's say an edible is infused with full spectrum infusion method. Well, what compounds are in there is actually really important to predict what high or what effects you're going to experience. So when it comes to terpenes and the cannabinoids, it's nice to look for an edible that has those on the label, so that way you can see what effects you experience when trying that profile of cannabinoids and terpenes and how they work together. We do put those on our label, so we show what terpene profiles in there, what cannabinoids, and also what strain we use, as all of our caramels are strain specific. We try to show as much information as possible so you can really predict or estimate how our different edible types or caramel types will make you feel. And the fourth thing that's really important to consider is that everybody's body is different. So here at Periodic Edibles, our cannabis caramels are full spectrum. We make canna butter, which gets all of the compounds, the cannabinoids and terpenes into the butter, which we use to make our caramels. We put as much of that information on the label as we can, but everybody's body is a little bit different. So for most people, from what we understand, this, our relaxed caramel, active caramel will apply for most people, but you could be different. So you really have to experiment. You can try the different edible products, see what works for you, and really get your THC dose right. And then try that edible and see how it makes you feel. What experience do you have? And then if you like it or it works for you, figure out what's in that edible, how it's infused, what cannabinoids, what terpenes are in there. Once you know that, what the formula is and how it makes you feel, then when you go back out to buy an edible the next time, you can look for similar things in a different edible or buy that same edible. One thing about our caramels is we consistently make the same formula over and over again. So if you try one of our products and it does work, you can feel really confident that it'll have the same effects the second, the third, the fourth time that you consume that product as well. So just to recap really quick, first thing that's really important to make sure your edible is predictable and consistent is that edible is lab tested and there's no variance in the potency of that product. The second thing is, how is that edible infused? Is it infused with an isolate, a distillate, or full spectrum edible? The third thing is, if it is full spectrum, what compounds are in there? What cannabinoids? What terpenes? Look for those things on the label. That can tell you a lot about the effects you can expect when consuming the edible. And the fourth thing is, everybody's body is different. It really takes a little experimentation, trying a couple different products that are infused with different methods, finding out what works for you. Once you find out what works and you find similar products or that same product made with that same formula, you can start to feel confident that it'll be consistent and predictable the next time you consume an edible.